This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Now, as many videos on my channel and some of my meme masterpieces suggest, I've kind of got a thing for productivity apps. And at this point, I've kind of tried them all, from Notion to Things to Trello to Obsidian to Bear. So I wondered, how hard would it be to stop using all these apps? What if I go back to the simpler times, to using nothing but a pen and a notebook to plan my tasks? So that's what I did. This past month, I used a bullet journal every day to manage my to-do lists. And let me tell you, this challenge really surprised me. So in today's video, I'll talk more about why I decided to go on this challenge. Then I'll share more about what it was like going full analog, how I set up my bullet journal, and finally what I liked and didn't like about this process. And shout out to today's sponsor, Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence. More on them in a little bit, but let's get on with the video. And let me tell you, despite how simple they might look, to-do list apps can be life-changing. In fact, I probably would have struggled a lot less in college if I had something like Things. I had so many different things going on, from classes to clubs to research to admittedly very limited social activities. And the last thing I wanted to do was lug around a bulky planner. And compared to everything I've tried in the past, Things specifically was great. There was the minimal design, the cross-device sync, the seamless organization structure, and the ability to easily schedule tasks throughout the day. And for those power users or people on the go, I think a to-do list app makes a lot of sense. But let's be honest, my daily commute has now become a trek from the kitchen to the office. And perhaps this is just coincidence, but by the time I started this challenge a month ago, I was ready for the change. I wanted something simpler, because with Things, I was slowly becoming less and less intentional about how I planned my tasks. And I was really getting bogged down by all the different apps I was using. The more tools I added to my workflow, the harder it was to actually know what I had to do. And while Things was great for short-term planning on the daily level, it was hard to see my long-term goals at a glance, which, given all the multi-million sponsors I've been racking up and my procrastinating tendencies, could have been a recipe for disaster. So this challenge really came at the perfect time. With all the changes happening in my life, from moving back to my own place to beginning the job search, I think I just needed to change things up. Something different to help me become more mindful about my work. Speaking of my job search, as I've mentioned probably 1,000 times on this channel, I'm applying for tech jobs. And one way to really stand out as an applicant is to make a personal website. Now, I could code up a site from scratch and spend days making it just right. Or I could just use Squarespace, which is a lovely sponsor of today's video. As someone who loves design, but sucks at CSS, I love how Squarespace has so many different template options that range from clean and minimal to bright and colorful. And as a creator, I want the site not only to reach potential employers, but also my subscribers. So I'll definitely be making use of Squarespace's blogging tools to better reach my audience. And once I publish my site, hopefully soon, I know I'll have everything I need, from detailed analytics to SEO tools, to see how I'm doing. So yeah, Squarespace really has it all. And if you haven't tried it yet, head over to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/harshibar to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And thank you again, Squarespace, for supporting my channel. Now back to the video. So on May 5th, I whipped out my gel pens, picked out the most aesthetic and cheapest notebook I can find on Amazon, and started setting up my bullet journal. Now, I had a bullet journal in college as well. In fact, it was this one. And I remember every single semester, the night before school started, I would spend the whole night scrolling endlessly through Pinterest to find the perfect bullet journal layout. And to be honest, I almost fell into that trap this time as well. But ultimately, I found a super minimal layout on a site aptly called bulletjournal.com that had all I needed. So I heated up some coffee, went to my writing desk, turned on some acoustic music, and got to work. I think it took around 20 minutes to set this up. which probably wasn't the best use of my time, but it was pretty calming. Now, I've used physical planners throughout all of my school years, which were probably more than 10 years of my life. But this time, I really enjoyed the process because it allowed me to form intentional habits centered around journaling. Every Sunday evening, I sit down at the dining table and plan out my week. After setting up the weekly layout, I'll jot down the highlight or the big picture goal for each day. I think this is something I picked up from an Ali Abdaal video, so it's not an original idea, but it's really nice. And now that I'm doing a lot more interviews and actually have meetings to attend, I also open up my Google Calendar and copy all of my events I've got scheduled for the week. All of these steps just help frame my mind for what I'll be doing over the week, so I'll never miss meetings or feel overwhelmed. And I think that's the main thing that I was missing from things. And then every morning, I'll scooch over to my writing desk and write down specific goals for that day. I'll take that somewhat daunting daily highlight and break it down into bite-sized pieces. And because the space on the page is finite, I can only add maybe 6 or 8 tasks each day, which helps me stay realistic about what I can actually accomplish each day. But to be honest, even then, I rarely finish all my tasks. But anyways, throughout the day, I always have my planner open at the corner of my desk. It's that little nudge to remind me of what I have to do, especially when I don't have my boss or my mother lurking over my shoulder. And let's be real, there's something about crossing off tasks on paper, of seeing that X, that's so satisfying. If anything, that itself has become the motivation to get my work done. Now, when I started this quote-unquote challenge, I expected it to feel like a challenge. But I was pretty surprised that besides maybe 2 days of adjustment, using this bullet journal felt pretty natural. And there's 3 things I really liked about this process: how intentional it made me, how it helps plan for the long term, and how flexible the system is. First, I mainly appreciated the habits that I formed around my journal that made me a lot more intentional. There's something different about sitting down in the morning with no other distractions and writing your goals down on paper. And by setting these daily highlights on a weekly level, I think I've actually become a bit more productive. Especially since my work exists in 1-week sprints right now, this is really helpful to see that end goal and actually motivate me to get things done on time. And once I go back to having a normal job, like a normal person, I'm probably going to have a lot more going on. And it's nice to know that I don't need to worry about making the perfect setup right from the beginning, that the system can adapt to my ever-changing life. But of course, there are several downsides to the system since it is analog. First, it isn't that portable, and I don't always have this journal on me when I need to write a task or a thought on the go, or, well, in my case, 10 feet away in the living room. And it does take some time every week to set this up, and there are not going to be any fancy templates or different sections for me to flesh out. And of course, the system isn't smart. I can't just Command F my handwritten notes or sync my tasks with Google Calendar. But these past few months, I've been kind of coming to terms with the fact that sometimes bigger isn't always better. Sometimes something simple, something as old school as a notebook and a pen might be all you really need. And yeah, that's it for today's video. Hopefully this inspired you to maybe wipe the dust off your old planner or just to simplify your productivity game. Whatever it is, I am curious to know, how do you plan your tasks? Do you use a paper planner or a digital planner? Let me know in the comments down below. But otherwise, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a big like and subscribe. Follow me on social media if you want to. Thank you again, Squarespace, for supporting my channel, and I'll see ya in the next one. 감사합니다.